Hello guys, welcome to Daddy Share Space and welcome to my channel. So today I have before you the three FSK rails. It comes in a 670, a 420, and also a 250. These particular rails work in conjunction with the HKC 55 EB saw. This happens to be the battery powered edition. You can buy a corded model as well. Now the way that this works is you have a rail like this. You can see it here, and what you have here is you have a bungee mechanism on here that helps to lock the saw in. You also have this metal lever that you'll slide the saw down this channel here to engage the saw. So if you look at the bottom of the track saw here, you can see you have two different columns as opposed to a conventional track saw. So this area here is going to slide onto this ridge, and then the other portion is going to slide here. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like when you put it on. So you slide it on the saw and it locks into place back here on the back. So let's try that one more time. In order to take it off, you push the lever in and you slide the saw back. So let's see if we can see it from a top-down perspective possibly. So if I take the saw, slide it onto the track, and once it gets to that portion, you can see that that tab opens up right there, and now it's engaged. So now I can actually handle the saw like this. What this gives you the ability to do with these two points of contact is it gives you the ability, you can see it from the side there, it gives you the ability to put a piece of wood up here so that you can square up your stock. Now there are multiple graduations here. You can go from 60 degrees on the back all the way to 45 on the front, and that's altered by basically loosening this knob and then pushing this, or basically pulling this connector back to slide it into the grooves. It does have detents at certain numbers like 30, 40, 60, and those normal or common angles, but you can also tighten it up at any one of the other graduates in between. I got a question in my comments asking if you should just go with the FSK rail as opposed to using a guide rail square such as this. And my short answer is no. And the reason being, if you look at the profile of this, it's pretty thin, right? So it's going to give you the ability to have a little bit more flexibility than the FSK rail. Now, the FSK can work fine. However, let me show you something. So as long as I have a piece of 2x stock like this, and this is kind of like a 2x stock cutting machine, when I put the saw or put the wood down and I put the saw and engage it, it connects right here on the base. Let's see if you can see that from this angle. So you can see how the connection is right there. And that gives the person the ability to engage and cut from this method, and because these two portions here are parallel one to another, that's going to give me the ability to have a square cut when I advance across my workpiece, and that's fine in an instance like that. However, when you go to something thinner like this is where you're going to have problems. Now right now, as things are set with this 2x here, I can set this on top of the table and actually make a cut. Now I do have to pull up the guard on the side in order to do that, but that gives me the ability to go ahead and move forward with my cut in this fashion. Contrarily, if I'm using a piece of thin material like this and I set it on top of my table, you can see how elevated that is off the table. If you look down around here, like there's no, the way that I'm referencing is, it's not consistent, because if you look on the bottom of the saw, this portion and this portion are not the same height. This is probably close to maybe 10 or 11 mils, and this is about 30 mils in height over here on this side. So that means that the saw or the track itself does not sit flush. It does not sit balanced like this. Even if you take the saw off of the track, you can see there's it's cantilevered in towards the right. So because of that, when you put the track on a piece of thinner stock, this is what you're going to be looking at. You're going to be looking at an angle, unless of course you were to hang your piece off of your table or your cutting surface. Then you can get a nice flush cut with this particular method. So it's not a complete deal breaker. Now by contrast, if I take this piece of flat wood and I take the rail square, I install it in the rail, clamp it down, I can go flat on this table and engage it and make my cut in this fashion. So right here I have the TS60, and then I can come back with my saw and I'm able to go ahead and make this cut on a flat surface. Now obviously if the blade is going a little bit deeper than the material, I would cut into this bench, and I can still, even if I'm using 2x lumber like this, I can come back and do the same thing right here, where I can put the saw on and I'm able to get my cut. So you can see how that fastens there. So those are just a couple of, well, that's one of the reasons why I don't feel like the FSK is an acceptable alternative for a rail square. The other reason is simply because, to be honest, size matters. Right here I have a 75-inch rail. By contrast, this is the longest FSK rail. So you're giving up the opportunity to be able to cut longer pieces of material when you just go with the FSK system. The FSK system is probably going to be more applicable to if you're going to utilize the if you're just cutting 2x type material, because you do have the 250 FSK, the 670 FSK, and then also the 420. So if you're doing 2x material, this may be sufficient for you. But if you do plan on cutting any kind of sheet goods, I think that even though you could do it with this particular setup, I think it's probably better if you went ahead and got the guide rail square, which as far as price is concerned, I think these cost about maybe a couple $100, maybe a little bit less than that. You can get the TSO branded model. You don't have to buy the Festool one. As a matter of fact, I think that the Festool one is not always readily available here on the Amazon link or Amazon United States. You might have to go over to the Amazon UK to find that Festool branded one. All right, so the reason why I brought out both the TS60 and the TSV60 is these are the only saws besides the HKC that can actually mount to the FSK rail. So this saw is very versatile in the sense that you can actually put a ripping blade on here, a cross-cutting blade, whatever you want to put on there, and you still get the functionality of being able to slide it in and use the FSK rail. Now this is kind of an unwieldy setup, but it is something that you can do. Likewise, you can take the TSV60, which is the laminate cutting saw, and it also gives you that functionality. So the FSK rail is a nice addition to the Festool lineup. I do not think it is an adequate replacement for the rail square with the regular rail. The rail square is going to give you a lot more versatility across different applications. Again, if you're only cutting 2x lumber, then you probably can get by with the FSK rail. Anyways, guys, I hope this answered your question, and thank you for taking time to watch the video. See you in my next one.